Hello, welcome to Real Talk. I am your host, Paul Britton. We're just here to review movies, my guys and gals, and everything in between. And listen, it's this week. It screams, "Hey, it's award season!" And honestly, that started last week with the release of uh one uh one battle after another. Just a quick reminder, my favorite movie of the year so far. Uh, just spoiler alert, that doesn't change this week. And this week we get two highly anticipated acting performances. One movie, one of those two movies, probably hoping for some consideration for other categories as well. But we also get to first time directors, which is kind of exciting and interesting. So yeah, I mean, this is it, man. And the first one that we're going to be talking about is The Smashing Machine. It's from Benny Safdie. This is the first time that either of the Safdie brothers, who previously have directed several films, most notably the one from 3 years ago, starring Adam Sandler, Uncut Gems. This is Smashing Machine, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and this one, so quick thing on the story. This is a retelling, I'm going to call it you would call maybe a reimagining, but I haven't seen it's a retelling of a documentary by the exact same name that follows this a mixed martial arts battle warrior, like a combat, a hand-to-hand combat guy by the name of Mark Kerr. And just the documentary kind of follows his attempt to become the best mixed martial arts fighter within in this nascent sort of industry where this is UFC. He does participate in UFC, but it's also there's another spinoff, not spinoff, but competitor that's out of Japan that's called Pride, and that's the one that he focuses on, even though he does participate in UFC. And this is very early. This is pre 2000. And so it's really before UFC was like a UFC, like everybody loved UFC. It's when people are just kind of learning about it. And there's one scene depicted in one of the trailers where an older woman sees him sitting in a doctor's office and is like, "Oh, this is the thing I've heard about on the news." And and now this would be the thing that everybody hears of everywhere. And so the first thing is, because it's a retelling and it's not really a reimagining, and it's not really from my understanding, they just lift the documentary. It becomes one of those, well, okay, why are we doing this type of things? Much like when they did the shot for shot remake of Psycho. It's like, why is this needed? Or when you take a movie that is perfectly good and wonderful and people love, and just kind of redo the movie, and don't really offer a lot of new or interesting or different takes on what's going on. This definitely doesn't offer new, different, or interest. I'm not gonna say interesting, but new or different takes on what goes on in the documentary, as far as I understand. But what it does do is, the documentaries are tough to find sometimes. Documentaries aren't necessarily well known, and with the UFC being significantly more popular now than when that documentary initially came out, it really is a genuine, hey, we can do a brand new audience here opportunity. So I get it to that extent. Also, this is produced by Dwayne the Rock Johnson. It was taken to Benny Safdie by him, saying, "Hey, this is something I want to do." And after a few years of start stop, it finally happened, and they went through with it. And Mark Kerr, I get it. I get why they did. Why this was a good documentary, because he's a really interesting character. And first of all, straight up, he opioids, he definitely, this is the early onset of the opioid crisis, and he is a victim of that. And but you get to see him work his way out of it, and so that's super compelling. He's just a really interesting character, because his life is really a dichotomy where he's just this, he is a smashing machine, but then when he's not that, just the opposite. And it's one of those things where he's like, oh, you won't believe it, he's nothing like that. He's nothing like that in real life. He really is genuinely like this multi-layered, complex, caring, hurt, emotionally hurt and emotionally vulnerable individual. And his girlfriend, soon to be wife, we don't see him get married. This is Emily Blunt is played by Emily Blunt. And I mean, she's just like she is a chaos agent. She's just like this whirlwind of living, not fast in the sense of harder drugs and stuff like that, but like wants to have fun. She just wants to have fun. She just wants to really push the boundaries of the kind of fun that she can have without diving into like heroin, stuff like that. You don't see that, but you definitely see her like wanting to like go on fast rides on an amusement park, and that's something that Mark just say, I can't do that. I like that's or go out late at night with her friends drinking. He's like, look, I'm getting over being a, and like so the one of the big criticisms, and it's valid, of this movie is that Emily Blunt's not given a lot to do, and she really just comes off as the stereotypical wet blanket girlfriend in sports movies. And guess what? She is really nothing more than the stereotypical wet blanket girlfriend in sports movies. She just comes off cold, and extremely one-dimensional, and serving nothing more than just to add pain, like emotional pain while he's dealing with physical pain. And like adds another ring in which he needs to fight. And it's just it's like, okay, but you know that just that she might have been that, but the odds are pretty good she was probably something a little more too. And we a better exploration of the character of that character would have been better. But then the flip side of that is, could you even like just, if you're not going to develop that character further than what's presented, why have the character there? Like maybe just write her out entirely, and let's just follow Mark and his attempt to focus on that, focus on Mark and his attempt to become the greatest, and the difficulties of that at the time, and the difficulties he has to of reconciling his home, his personality versus what he has to do in the ring. And I don't know. I don't know what to say other than it's it's good, not great. Honestly, that's where it lands. I will say, and so the big thing is okay, well, so what kind of awards are we talking about here? And much like Adam Sandler when uh, when Uncut Gems came out. Um, and the buzz was, oh, Adam Sandler, he's so good in this, and he really he takes on the role, and isn't Adam Sandler, he takes on the role, and it's amazing, and it's he does such a good job. He should get a nomination for Oscars, and I believe he got a Golden Globe nomination, and The Rock is 100% getting a Golden Globe nomination. Like, there's no doubt about it. But Oscars, I don't know. I don't know. I don't. I think this is going to be, especially when we see what Leonardo DiCaprio did, and I mean, I would even say Daniel Day-Lewis coming back, which we'll talk about here in a second. It's going to be really tough. He is really good in this. Like, he clearly can act. He clearly can take on a role, and by that I don't mean like he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to be The Rock, and like in his movies, he is so often The Rock, and it's a slight variation of what that means. And here, it's just not. A guy who is somewhat infamous for having in his movie writers that he can never lose a fight. He loses lots of fights here, and he's super vulnerable, and he does a great job with the role. And Blair mentions here that I'm super excited to see this, and I'm glad. And I think that for people who have a vested interest in Mark Kerr and his story, and the early genesis of UFC, or just those kind of combat fighting things in the first place, I think there's a lot there for you, and I think you'll really, really like it. That aspect of the story I'm 100% out on from Jump Street, and I just don't care. So I'm there not for the fighting at all, like to the exact opposite. I'd rather just close my eyes during the fighting scenes. And I think that that might be part of my hesitancy to fully wrap my arms around this movie, but I recognize that it is actually genuinely good. It's well made. It's blah blah blah. It's just I've seen this movie before, and that's just kind of where I land. So here at Real to Real Talk, we do tacos instead of stars. And if we feel like something needs a little extra beyond just a whole taco, we'll add guac rather than saying like half a taco, like you would say with half a star. Why? Because nobody eats to have a fucking taco. So here on Smashing Machine, we're giving it 3 tacos, 3 really great tacos. But there's just not enough there to make anything extra, and I'm not in the mood for guac. So that's where we land. Next up, we have Anemone, and this is the first of the 2 first-time directors movies, and this is directed by Daniel Day-Lewis's son, Ronan Day-Lewis. 100% Nepo. Like, let's just get this out of the way. This movie's not getting even discussed if the guy who wrote it didn't write it with his dad, and his dad happened to be Daniel Day-Lewis. So Daniel Day-Lewis does have writing credit on this, along with Ronan Day-Lewis, and Ronan Day-Lewis directed it. That being said, it's Sean Bean, and it's Daniel Day-Lewis and Sean Bean playing brothers, and Sean Bean needs to go find his hermit, closed off, living in the middle of northern England brother. He has to hop on a motorcycle and drive 2-lane roads and blah blah blah. It looked very similar to some of the roads that I was driving around in northern England and Scotland myself when I was driving around that area not this past summer, but the summer before. And yeah, I mean, so the story is that Sean Bean has been sent by his girlfriend, who through pretty early on in Act 1, we find out to find his brother, Sean Bean's brother, played by Daniel Day-Lewis, because his brother used to be the boyfriend of his current girlfriend, and that her son, it seems like their son, but her son is Daniel Day-Lewis is the father, and Daniel Day-Lewis is just, just an unlikable guy who knows he's unlikable and is living in the middle of the, nowhere because he is unlikable and he doesn't like anybody else. And we find out through it's just a masterclass of acting between Daniel Day-Lewis and Sean Bean. If Sean Bean were given anything to say, which he's not, it's basically a masterclass of acting from Daniel Day-Lewis and amazing reaction shots from Sean Bean of what happens when we join the military and never deal with emotionally the fucked up things that you have to do when you're in the military, especially if you join the British military and you're stationed in Northern Ireland. I mean that that's it. And this movie hasn't been well received. So everybody is super excited. Like everybody, meaning film geeks. Film geeks are super excited about this because no, Sean Bean does not get killed in the Crossfire Blair. People are super excited about this because everybody believed that Daniel Day-Lewis was retired from acting, because Daniel Day-Lewis said he was retired from acting. He was done with it. He is since, now that he came out and did this movie, I'm not going to say with his son, I'm going to say for his son, so that his son could get a movie made. Now that he came out and did this movie for his son, he has said, hey, look, I spoke a little too soon. I'm sorry about that. I regret that my statements saying, yeah, I'm done acting, were taken earnestly, even though he said them in earnest. He says, oopsie, takesy backsies. So we could be getting to see Daniel Day-Lewis pop up in another, the next Paul Thomas Anderson movie, or in another Martin Scorsese movie, or who knows. One thing I will say for this movie, Daniel Day-Lewis is always fucking captivating and amazing, and that's one thing that this movie absolutely has going for it. The story is the reason why Sean Bean needs to go get his brother, who's the father of the kid that he's basically adopted, is because the kid joined the army even though his mom didn't want him to, and came home AWOL. And she's hopeful that he can come speak to his son, who he's never met, like bailed on him, and explain to him, hey, look, you fucked up. We can fix this. Let's get you back. And it's just a series it is a series of conversations that are super one-sided, where it's Sean Bean saying, look, enough of this fucking bullshit of stalling bullshit. We need to go. And Sean Bean filling in, giving very light fill-ins on the scenarios and situations and what's going on in the world, specifically his world, the kids' world. And then Daniel Day-Lewis reacting with monologues. And it's also interspersed with scenes from his kid, just kind of trying to relate to his world. Like he's obviously just feels disconnected and is trying to latch onto something, and while at the same time trying to deal with the fact that his mom has sent who he considers his dad, even though he knows his dad is a different person, trying to reconcile with the fact that his mom is trying to have his birth, his sperm donor father come back, and knowing that his sperm donor father ended up getting sent to a nut house, and then throughout the course of the movie, we find out that not only was he sent to a nut house, something happened, and definitely, persona non grata, and then there's a climactic scene where Daniel Day-Lewis explains the situation of what happened to him when he was in Northern Ireland. You can imagine it's not good. So the good about this movie, Daniel Day-Lewis is amazing. Sean Bean is really good at reacting. I feel like they should have given Sean Bean like at least one really solid kick-ass soliloquy or monologue to go along with Daniel Day-Lewis's, or at least interjections. Like they could have played off of each other a bit more. The movie definitely needed that. Not that I wouldn't just eat up just scene after scene of Daniel Day-Lewis, camera hogging, but obviously Daniel Day-Lewis had a hand in writing this, because Sean Bean you don't get enough verbal interjections from Sean Bean, and the movie needed it. The other, it the story itself does a great job of rounding out the character, the Daniel Day-Lewis character, and you earn an ending, because throughout the movie, like, it's really hard to like this guy. You earn the ending, but at the same time, you have to realize that you earn the ending because this person did something terrible, and he genuinely feels fucking terrible about the fact that he did something terrible, but also was in a situation where the terrible thing that he did maybe wasn't that terrible. And like, okay, that's okay, but also like, maybe we don't want to like justify that, say that, not all, even the conscientious Nazis were okay. Like, and I'm not saying that lightly, like, I'm not saying that lightly. So it's just a really hard sell on that. And I I was bought into the movie. I really was. I had genuinely bought into the movie, and then during that scene, I started feeling bad for him, and then I was like, oh God, I can't feel bad for this guy. Like, why am I feeling bad for this guy? This is this is not okay. It also has another thing that really works is it's so weird that the thing that works is immediately coupled with a thing that really doesn't fucking work at all. It's totally successful in what it does, and it's like, why would you do that and try to be successful? It's like, um the other thing that it does really well is it has a moment in it that I really enjoyed, which harkened back to a movie called Magnolia, Paul Thomas Anderson movie. And my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Oh no. And uses exactly what Paul Thomas Anderson uses, but in a way that I think any audience would enjoy. Things this movie doesn't do well. The symbolism that it layers on is so hackneyed and ham-handed. I just wish that the symbolism were let to I just wish that the symbolism were a little more subtle and not like, hey guys, I've got symbolism. Like, okay, we get it. And then there's a supernatural element that's there's a supernatural element that's introduced that it's like, this is not needed at all, and it doesn't work at all. But at the end of the day, Anemone. Okay, where are we gonna land on Anemone? I want to give it more. Ultimately, I'm giving it 2 tacos plus guac. It's a tough hang. I would never, I don't know that I would ever want to watch it again unless it was just like, hey, I really want to see Daniel Day-Lewis's Daniel Day-Lewis's performance again, and I'd be like, okay, we'll do that, but at the end we have to just kind of agree that there's super cringy what the thing. Although even the ending is fantastic because it's like, okay, good, yeah, it earns an ending that it doesn't deserve, and it's like weird. Anyway, but yeah, it's two tacos, really good quality tacos, really good guac. But at the end of the day, I can't do 3 tacos. Last movie, Good Boy. Okay, Good Boy is the horror movie from Shudder that is told entirely from the frame of reference of a dog. So you are, you see the dog, both, camera from kind of like behind the dog, looking at what the dog's, and then you're getting reaction shots of the dog. It's the dog, and his owner is going through a you know something terrible, demonic possession. We're not sure, shadows coming in, and there is something controlling him, and it's the dog trying to figure out how to you know get his owner back, I guess you could say. And the trailer came out in the middle of August, and it was like just a huge viral sensation. And by the way, this is the other movie that's the first time director on this one. And like it was such a huge thing that like it was like one of the number one searches in the entire month of August was, does the dog from Good Boy die? Like, and that's just, people just wanted to know, look, I just need to know, does this fucking dog live? I 100% was one of the millions upon millions of people that did a Google search, does the dog from Good Boy die? I'm going to flat out tell you, no, the dog from Good Boy doesn't die. It's not a spoiler alert. It's just, it is just the, you need to know. All right, you need to know. Animals in peril give me agita, and I have a hard time with it. But because that's the entire premise of this movie, I went in prepared for it, and I was able to handle it. And this movie 100% works. The dog is just so perfect, and does and the movie really does do a great job of setting mood and making you understand, okay, this dog is going through it with his owner, where the owner is you know battling an illness. They at the same time, having these dark forces in this house that they move into battle him too. And one of the things that we were presented with is the fact that he moves from the city. He has a shitty apartment in the city and moves out into the country, super, super, super secluded, into like this old house that used to be where his grandfather lived, and it's like locked up and super locked up and locked up with chains and everything, and do not go near. And in conversations that the guy has with his sister, we find out that they believe that the house is haunted and that the house literally killed his grandfather. And goddamn, and they do such a good, like, the thing about this, it's a horror movie, and it does such a good job at setting tone, and it does such a good job of setting up everything, where it's like you see this guy who clearly loves his dog starting to turn on his dog and starting to neglect and starting to as these dark forces take him over. And you see this dog being aware of things going on in the house that are otherworldly, and influencing and impacting and controlling his owner. And through conversations with his sister, who he as he becomes more and more separated from just less and less interested in talking to his sister, breaking away from his sister, we find her concerns that you're really changing here and there's a problem. And it's an hour and 15 minutes of just uncomfortable I love this dog, and and that's it. One of the things that this movie does amazing, you never get a shot of the dude's face. Never, not ever do you get a shot of the owner's face. It is always, you know, chest down or from the back of the head, or you'll see reflections of him in the television. And oh man, because you never get to see the like, you don't, the transformation is entirely emotional, and you realize that he's going to see a doctor about something, and I just I there's not enough. I don't know how much to say because I don't want to spoil this movie, but in the end, like, it just all makes sense, and the movie really ties everything together perfectly. And you fucking love this dog, and you fucking love the dude's sister, and you feel really bad that this guy had to go through what he had to do, what he had to go through in this secluded, creepy fucking house in the middle of nowhere. And one of the best parts of this movie is after the credits, and the credit, it's an hour and 15-minute long, and like the credits are 2 seconds. You find out the reason why the credits are 2 seconds is because it was made by a dude and his wife, over like a year and a half of filming, an hour worth of film every day with his dog, and like just trying to get the dog to do it. Like, they show one little, like how they filmed one little scene, and like that scene took 3 days to film, and it was just like 8 seconds took 3 days, and it's just fascinating. It's amazing, and God bless this fucking movie for existing. Look, it's not going to be your favorite horror movie of the year, and it's not even going to be your favorite movie of the year, but it's definitely four amazing tacos. If you have Shudder, I could not possibly recommend this movie enough. If you don't have Shudder, I hope that you I hope that you go and find it in a theater, because it's probably not going to be in theaters for super super long, because Shudder's going to want to get this on their streaming service. Thank God Shudder's back to making good movies. It's been a while. This is Real Talk. I'm your host, Paul Britton. Next week, we're going to have Tron Ares, which I love the Tron movies, and so I'm going to unabashedly say I'm ridiculously excited about. So hope to see you all again next week. Have a great week. Go see some movies.